Hey guys, so today I'm here with a review of the HTC Status. This is one of the latest smartphones available on the AT&T network, so let's go ahead and take a look at what all it has to offer. So one of the first things you'll notice is the design. It's certainly fairly unique among Android phones. So of course it does have a 2.6-inch touchscreen. It's fairly responsive and all that, but of course I'll get into some of the details in a minute. But of course you do have both that as well as a full physical keyboard. Now this keyboard is not half bad at all. It's certainly not my favorite physical keyboard I've ever used. As you guys can see here, it is raised up a bit. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's raised up a decent bit. And the keys got nice spacing on them. However, they're not really particularly, well, they're kind of domed, so there's not a whole lot of great places for your fingers to go. I mean, if I open up something, for example, let's just send out a message real quick, and I go ahead and give you guys a little demo here. I mean, it's not half bad. This is a test of the keyboard. So I mean, you guys can tell it's not half bad. It does have autocorrect, although autocorrect, I will mention, is turned off automatically. You do have to enable that in options, which I definitely recommend you do so. But you can go ahead and do that pretty easily. So the keyboard's not bad. It is backlit, so it's definitely nice when you're in a dark area. So yeah, not the best keyboard ever, but certainly not half bad. Something continuing on with the keyboard that I found was actually rather nice is the directional buttons. It does have 4 directional buttons, so which is nice for web browsing, especially instead of having to move your hand up and scroll every single time you want to go through the web page. It's really nice to be able to just hit the button, the same way going through text, and all that kind of stuff. Now, while I'm still talking about the design, I'm going to go ahead and roll over exactly some of the nice features. For one here, you guys will see up top here, you have a 0.3 megapixel, also known as a VGA quality front-facing camera. Now, there's actually something kind of nice you can do. Of course, you can use it for video chats. You can use it in the camera application if you want to record a quick self-portrait or something. Or you can use this little app called the Mirror app, which is kind of a little bit funny. So if I... you guys can see, hello. It's kind of funny. It's not really necessary at all, but it's kind of nice to have. And you can turn the screen brightness up and down just really quickly. It's something kind of neat. I thought it was kind of funny that they added. But of course you can use that, like I said, for video chatting as well as taking pictures and video as well. You have down here below the screen, you have your 4 Android capacitive touch buttons. Just like pretty much all HTC phones lately, they work fine. There's no backlight bleed or anything like that. It's really quite solid. Now, in between the keyboard and the screen, you guys will notice 2 buttons here. You probably haven't seen these in a while, but these are the send and end keys for calls. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of these. I think it's kind of a bit useless. Of course, there's a perfectly good thing called the touchscreen where you can, hit send and end very simply. So the fact that they go ahead and dedicate this entire top row to these 2 are not particularly great. The end key does double as a home button. So as you guys can see here, I mean, it's not totally useless, but personally I would have much preferred if they would have made this, perhaps a number row, or maybe moved the screen down, made it a little bit bigger, but not a huge deal. Down here you will find the Facebook button. Now, of course, the Facebook button is one of the major features of the phone. It allows you to share to Facebook and all that kind of good stuff without needing to do anything. You just hit the hardware key and you go straight in. Now, there are a couple of cool things about this. For example, let's say you're listening to some music or whatever, you can hit the Facebook button. It'll try to find some info on the music and allow you to post. Same goes like if you're on the internet, you can go ahead and post straight to Facebook with a link. It's pretty nice, but if we're just here, we want to just post something to our wall really quickly here. So we can just, again, just type out whatever we like. So, hello world, and we go ahead and post that. You can also go ahead and launch the camera and take some photos, whatever, send it to you all. In general, I found that it's fairly helpful. I'm not a huge Facebook, I'm not always on Facebook like I'm sure a lot of you guys are, so I didn't find a ton of use for it. However, it certainly was nice. It sends you very, very quickly into the Facebook app. Moving on to the software, you'll find that it does run Android 2.3 Gingerbread. This is the most latest version of Android, and it also does come with the HTC Sense interface. So HTC Sense is noticed in a couple of areas. For one, of course, on your home screen, you can just pinch out. Or rather, you can pinch out, go to your different home screens. If I want to go over here and listen to music or whatever, you can also swipe through very simply. There's also quite a few different customization options. Not going to go ahead and get into everything, but you can entirely customize the look and feel of the phone very simply and easily through this. There also are quite a few applications pre-built in. I won't be able to have time to go through all of them, but I'll go ahead and give you guys a quick overview. So you guys will find a couple of them, such as AT&T Navigator. You'll find Facebook app, obviously. You'll also find Facebook Chat as well as Google Chat, which is kind of nice to have. FM radio. You'll find there's Gmail, the internet browser, which I'll show you guys in just a second. There's navigation, my AT&T, Market, Mail, apps, you name it, it's pretty much all the kind of apps that you would like, and of course it does have access to the Android market, so you can download many more. Now speaking of the Android market, one of the nice things about this phone, unlike a lot of other smaller Android phones, is that it does have a fairly standard screen resolution. So sometimes with these smaller Android phones, they'll have some kind of weird resolution where apps won't run, or they'll run kind of, you know, squashed or this or that. But this resolution is 320 by 480, which is actually pretty good on a small display. It means text is very clear, you know, gaming, pictures, you name it, looks very nice and clear. And on top of that, most Android market applications will work for you just fine. So let's go ahead and open up the internet browser and show you guys a little demo. Okay, so once you're into the browser, you'll find that it's actually a rather snappy experience. You'll be able to scroll pretty smoothly. It's not perfect, but certainly really quite nice and not a big deal at all. You can also, of course, double tap to zoom. You also do have pinch to zoom. Again, relatively smooth, not perfect, but I don't really have any major complaints. You'll also find that while you're browsing and whatnot, it's actually a rather snappy experience. Now this phone is powered by an 800 megahertz processor. It's only single core, but certainly suffices for a lot of what you would need to do from day to day. It also does have 512 megabytes of RAM and a 2 gigabyte included microUSD card. Of course, you can increase that to whatever size microUSD card rather you like. So, like I said, the browser's pretty good, not fantastic. The major problem that I had with the browser was just the fact that the screen is kind of small. It's certainly not something that you're going to want to spend hours and hours, web browsing and whatnot on. It's certainly going to be good enough if you just want to check something real quick, or check your email and that kind of stuff. But the screen definitely does limit how long it's comfortable to go ahead and be browsing. Moving around the phone, you'll find a few interesting things. So, for example, right here you'll find the volume rocker. Right here you will find the micro USB port for both charging and syncing. There's not a whole lot on the bottom, nor on the right side, but you will find the lock button as well as a 3.5mm headset jack. And while I've got it on the side view, you guys should be able to tell that it's got a definite curve with the keyboard. And I actually like this for a couple of different reasons. For one, when you're typing, you allow yourself to be looking straight at the screen without having to tilt it or anything, but the keyboard is still tilted a little bit forward towards your thumb, so you can get at it a little bit nicer. I definitely thought that was actually a nice addition. And on top of that, when you're in a call, it actually contours to your face rather nicely. Unlike a lot of other smartphones, just a huge sheet of glass. Certainly not super comfortable to have against your face for a couple of hours or so, but I had no issues with this at all. Speaking of call quality, I found that it's generally pretty decent. Now, as far as on my end, I found that it held the AT&T reception rather nicely. In fact, just on par with most other phones that I've been reviewing lately on the AT&T network. I found that both the speaker grill and the speaker were a little bit quiet. Now, moving on to the build quality and whatnot, I found that it's actually pretty solid. Now, the phone is mostly made out of plastic, but I mean, it's pretty sturdy. It doesn't definitely feel like you need to wrap it up in a case, a huge rubber case, and never let it leave your pocket or anything like that. It definitely feels like it's fairly sturdy. It can take a little bit of a normal wear and tear. It also does have a rather nice design. Now moving around over here on the back, you guys will find that it does have a 5 megapixel rear-facing camera. Now, unlike a lot of other cheap phones where they kind of cheap out on this area, they'll go, oh, we can just throw in a 2 megapixel camera or something. HTC really did a good job with this camera. So, like I said, 5 megapixels, does have autofocus, and it also does have an LED flash. Now, while you're certainly not going to be wanting to replace your DSLR or anything like that with this, I found that the pictures and video are pretty decent. Now, if you guys are interested in seeing quality samples and whatnot, definitely be sure to hit the link in the description of this video. I have a full written review of this as well as some picture and video samples. Moving on to battery life, I found this really quite respectable. So in my testing, I was able to use it for really harshly. I was constantly on the phone. I believe I spent about 3 hours on the phone, checking Twitter, Facebook, internet, taking pictures, video. I was really trying to tax the battery as much as I could. And I was still able to get about 10 hours or so, which is, in my opinion, about a full day. And I still had about 10 to 15% battery left at the end. So certainly that's the major thing I look for when I'm reviewing a smartphone, is how long will the battery last, in really heavy usage. And if you can make it through a day, anything else is great, because obviously if it can make it through a full day, just plug it in, you're going to be good to go. If you're using it more moderately, you're only checking it a few times a day here and there, I wouldn't actually be surprised if you get through 2 days of usage with the HTC Status. Anyway guys, that's about it for my review. Overall, I think there's a lot to like about this, especially at the $50 price price point on a 2-year contract. On the one hand, it's a nice keyboard. You actually have Android and a physical keyboard that you don't have to slide out. I think that's something that's a lot underrated. A lot of times it's nice not to have to slide a keyboard out constantly, but that's something that's always there, and yet don't have some massive, huge phone. So especially if you're coming from a messaging device or perhaps a BlackBerry, you'll actually feel right at home with the HTC Status. It's got pretty good performance. It's got decent cameras, of course, with that front-facing camera, and it's built pretty well. On the other hand, though, I'm not a huge fan of the design as a whole. Some of the things I like, but some of the things like the send and end keys, I really don't like those too much. Facebook button's nice. I don't know. I probably would prefer if it was just a button that I could just, have it do whatever I want, program it to maybe, open internet or whatever, instead of just being stuck at being a Facebook button. But not a big deal. I'm sure a lot of people will find some good utility with that. So anyway, guys, if you are interested, again, definitely be sure to hit the link in the description. Like I said, full written review. I'll also have some pictures, video samples, and all that kind of good stuff.